Norfolk, Virginia, shipbuilding, farming, and rail center. Ocean terminal for tobacco and produce. But to any sailor, Norfolk means Navy. It is not an uncommon scene at the great naval base on Hampton Roads when on the morning of February 3rd, 1954, the aircraft carrier USS Randolph puts to sea. Her destination? The Mediterranean, where she will serve a 6-month tour of duty with the United States Sixth Fleet. U.S. aircraft carriers are usually named for battles or famous warships. The Randolph's namesake was the 32-gun frigate, commissioned in 1777, one of the first warships of the Continental Navy. The new Randolph was commissioned in 1944 and modernized in 1953. As the great carrier heads eastward into the Atlantic, accompanied by an escort of fleet destroyers, the striking contrast between the first and second Randolph seems tempered by a few similarities. From the top of her radar-studded mast to the intricate depth of her engine room, the modern carrier is a huge, fantastically complex machine, run by a team of about 4,000 sailor scientists. A team in the finest sense, led by Captain Quackenbush and his administrative officers. Like any team, the thing that makes this one a success is training. Training takes many forms here. A chief petty officer instructs embryo signalmen in the fine art of two-blocking a hoist rapidly and correctly. Quartermasters shoot the sun and plot the ship's position from their observation. An engineer trainee learns to handle the throttle. Aerologists send aloft a Rowan-son, an expendable transmitter that automatically broadcasts reports of temperature, pressure, humidity, and wind aloft. Firefighting drill is of extreme importance in the presence of the fuels and explosives found aboard a carrier. And gunnery exemplifies the Navy's traditional role in our history. The combination of work and salt air whets Navy appetites to a fine edge aboard the Randolph, and her galleys are equipped to satisfy them. This is one of the ship's electric potato peelers. Without them, it would take one man a month to peel the 2,000 pounds of potatoes used for each meal. Yes, a 4,000-man crew can consume a lot of meat and potatoes, not to mention dessert, courtesy of the Randolph's Bakery. This is called the dead man's tray. It contains samples of each item of food served at a meal and is kept for 48 hours, so that in case any illness occurs aboard, the food may be checked for the possibility of bad provisions. But now it's chow down, dinner for the crew. There's always that problem of what to do with the silverware. There's never a problem of what to do with the food. Services for the men include barber shops, laundry, the fountain or gee-dunk, newspaper, hobby shop, cobbler, bank, post office, drugstore, library, tailor shop, radio station, and movies. In addition to caring for her own men and planes, the carrier serves as a mothership for her escorting destroyers. Now the destroyer Douglas Fox is moving alongside to be refueled in mid-Atlantic from the Randolph's 1.5 million gallon tank. Down on the hangar deck, the refueling crew, wearing life jackets, makes ready to rig out the hoses as the Douglas Fox closes the gap. This operation calls for the finest kind of seamanship from the officers and men of both vessels. Now they're in position. There goes the first line. It will pull a heavier line across, which will in turn pull the hose. Now the hose is secured, and fuel can begin to be pumped across to the destroyer. Retrieving the hose is the last step as the destroyer returns to its station. On the 10th day out, a familiar landmark appears on the horizon. It's the Rock of Gibraltar. Now we're entering the Mediterranean. And before many days pass, the Randolph reaches the Aegean Sea and falls in with the huge 45,000-ton carrier Midway and other ships of the Sixth Fleet, including a squadron of destroyers and the heavy cruiser Newport News, flagship of the fleet. A welcoming visit is on the agenda as our helicopter settles gently on Randolph's deck, and Admiral Morehouse, commanding the Sixth Fleet, is welcomed aboard by Captain Quackenbush. They will discuss the Randolph's role with the fleet and plans for the current exercise, Operation Hellenic Sky 1. But now, flight operations. Airplanes in action, the sole reason for the Randolph's existence. Jet fighters have their wingtip tanks filled by the fueling crews while ordnance men load ammunition. Up from the hangar deck comes the helicopter, affectionately called everything from egg beater to angel. The pilot checks the wind before taking off for plane guard duty, standing by in the air to rescue any pilot whose plane may go down in the sea. Radio and the ship turns into the wind for takeoffs.
Man off light water station.
Loaded with heavy clothes and equipment, pilots board an escalator which carries them to the flight deck.
Man off light water station.
Every pilot checks his plane personally. His life may depend on this inspection. Each plane captain, they wear brown sweaters, helps his pilot get ready, reminiscent of a knight and squire relationship. The F, or Fox flag, goes up, signifying flight operations are in progress, and the carrier's control tower, known as Pry Fly, takes over. From here, all takeoff and landing activities are directed by the Air Operations Officer, Commander Stone. Jet aircraft are catapulted into the air. They require too long a takeoff run for carrier's deck. Here, the bridle that pulls the plane is attached to the shuttle, which moves down the catapult's deck slot. The catapult crew, wearing green sweaters, attaches the bridle to the plane. Others attach the holdback under the tail. The fire signals ready. The catapult officer signals, run up your engine. Pilot salutes, ready. Fire. And another plane moves up to the port catapult. Starboard catapult fires. The catapult mechanism itself is located below decks. The holdback has in it a small metal ring, strong enough to hold the plane back against the thrust of its engines. But when the catapult is fired, the ring breaks, releasing the plane. Now the ordnance men, wearing red sweaters like the fueling and firefighting crews, check the rockets on a Douglas AD bomber. These planes take off under their own power. The air group, consisting of the planes, pilots, and maintenance crew, about 800 men under Commander Fraser, is a separate group from the ship's company and is transferred intact among carriers and shore stations. With the planes in the air, the flight deck crews get a little rest, or do they? Well, some take advantage of an opportunity to relax in the sun. But not the helicopter. Always ready, it gets word that a plane is down. Within minutes, the Angel is over the spot with a sling down to pick up the pilot. Soon he's back aboard. A bit wet, but safe nevertheless. Meanwhile, our companion carrier, the Midway, has rigged out a target sled for our planes in the air. They will fire rockets, machine guns, and drop bombs. These are rockets. This is machine gun fire. Let's take a closer look at the AD's firing rockets. Dive bomb, the Navy's old standby. Not all of Randolph's 80-odd planes can be accommodated in the hangar deck. Some must always be carried on the flight deck. A large part of the plane handling crew's time is spent moving the planes about or respotting them. Here the planes not in the air are respotted forward to leave a clear deck aft for landing. These movements are plotted on the Ouija board, which reproduces to scale the hangar and flight decks. and each plane aboard. Now the planes return to the carrier, and Pry Fly is back in the traffic control business. A photographer is ready to shoot any mishap, and the first plane is in the slot. He is guided in by the LSO, the landing signal officer. Speed radar tells the LSO how fast the plane is approaching. The jets land first. They come in at 140 knots and have just 100 yards of deck in which to stop. The plane's arresting hook catches one of 13 cables stretched across the deck. Planes preparing to land dump excess fuel from their wingtip tank. The LSO signals too fast, now too high. Okay, cut. Across the front of the landing area is a double barrier, acting as a safety feature to stop any plane that doesn't arrest. When jets land, there is an additional 20-foot-high nylon barricade farther forward on the deck. Something's wrong. A Banshee is coming in with the starboard wheel still up.
Crash! Crash!
The important thing now is to get the damaged plane off the deck as quickly as possible, so that planes still in the air will be able to land. Tilly, the traveling crane, moves in to give a lift. As each plane taxis forward, the one behind it is already on its final approach. Teamwork, timing, and practice gets planes aboard quickly and safely. But sometimes a stubborn arresting hook causes trouble. The approaching plane will take a wave off because of a foul deck. This signal means go around again. He operates the arresting cables. He raises them, unlocks them, and ducks. For if a cable breaks, it can sweep the deck like a scythe. The hook men release the cable and raise the hook. The cable is drawn back and the planes move forward. This job calls for fast work. Sometimes, either by accident or necessity, a plane lands on the wrong ship. This is an AD from the Midway, appropriately decorated for its return. One of the Sixth Fleet's jobs in the Mediterranean is to act as an emissary of American goodwill. As such, the Randolph plays host to representatives of many of our NATO allies. A group of Portuguese officers are shown around the ship by Captain Quackenbush. An Italian officer is welcomed aboard. And here are represented the British Navy, the Belgian Army, and the Norwegian Air Force. From time to time, a plane lands aboard from Naples or North Africa that attracts more attention than all the bombers and jet fighters combined. It is an outdated World War II Grumman torpedo bomber that has been stripped of its armament and put into service with the Codfish mail line. It flies in those all-important letters and packages from home that mean so much to the morale of the men aboard the Navy ships everywhere. From one of the two carriers, the mail will be distributed to the rest of the Sixth Fleet ships by helicopter. A petty officer from each division picks up the mail and distributes it to his shipmates. This is General Quarters. All hands man their battle stations for anti-aircraft defense drill. The target? Drones, fast radio-controlled model airplanes. Randolph's 8 5-inch and 28 3-inch guns are capable of putting up a terrific barrage. To make these firing runs even better tests of marksmanship, proximity fuses are not used. The cruisers and destroyers fire too, and the Midway puts up an imposing barrage. This is an anti-aircraft cruiser with an astonishing rate of fire. Finally hit, the drone descends by parachute. Although in this instance, as sometimes happens, the chute has been damaged by the anti-aircraft fire. A destroyer will pick the drone up and it will fly again. Some necessary housekeeping ends the drill. A scene like this usually means that land is near, and there is no exception here as the Randolph follows the Midway through the Straits of Messina, the waterway separating Sicily from the toe of the Italian boot. The approach of land is always an event on board ship. In this case, with the help of the band, it is the occasion for a formation on the flight deck and a personnel inspection. The ship's smart Marine detachment sets the example for all hands as the men fall into ranks. Only the men actually on watch are missing when the captain takes a sharp look at the appearance of his officers and men. Chief Genders, a combat artist, makes a pictorial record of the occasion. Before very long, the familiar landmarks of Vesuvius and the city of Naples appear ahead. And the Randolph, with the help of Italian tugs, prepares to tie up to one of the big mooring buoys. The boats are unshipped, and the promise of liberty in the Italian city sounds mighty good to 6th Fleet sailors. The captain's gig puts out, and the jaunty white steamers that sail out to Capri catch some eyes aboard the Randolph. It isn't long before members of the Liberty Party are hard at work being goodwill ambassadors. Liberty always seems to end too soon, and once out to sea, the fleet goes to work again. The job now is to replenish the fighting ships with the food, fuel, and ammunition that keeps them in action. The 6th Fleet has no land base east of Norfolk. Its own service vessels, oilers, store ships, ammunition ships, and others make it completely self-sufficient. Under the captain's watchful eye, the oiler USS Canastillo fills the Randolph's tanks with fuel oil, while the ship's band serenades the oiler's crew. Simultaneously, other ships of the fleet are refueled and replenished by the 6th Fleet's service vessels. While the Midway takes on oil, a store ship transfers food to the Randolph. Even in this mechanized age, plain old-fashioned manpower sometimes seems to be the only way to get a job done. One service vessel delivers a cargo of a different sort across the water to the carrier. When an acute appendicitis case developed aboard this oiler, it was decided to send the man over on a high line to take advantage of the Randolph's complete hospital facilities. The patient is received aboard by the hospital men, who transfer him from the high-line litter to a stretcher, and, supervised by Dr. Jones, head of the Randolph's medical department, carry him below by way of the aircraft elevator. Within a few minutes, the patient is in the ship's modern surgery, an operating room as completely equipped and staffed as most hospitals ashore. Dr. Thompson, the chief surgeon, performs the appendectomy. The anchor is down again, this time in the sparkling blue water of the Bay of Cannes on the French Riviera. Some small boats come out to look over the Randolph. The Riviera is always near the top in the cruise list of preferred Liberty ports. Cannes, Nice, Marseille, Toulon, Grasse, where they manufacture perfume, all are popular, and all are hard to leave. But the Randolph is scheduled to take part in a new fleet and air exercise. New planes will come aboard for the operation. AJ attack bombers from our North African air stations. These planes, the largest to operate from aircraft carriers, are considerably heavier than the B-17s and carry nearly twice the Flying Fortress's bomb load. These North American AJs have 3 engines, 2 propeller and 1 jet under the tail. For this part of the exercise, they will operate in conjunction with the photoplane, similar to the Cougar fighters. But instead of guns, they carry cameras for high-speed reconnaissance of enemy-held territory. The pilot can swing the camera through an arc of 180 degrees while in flight. The photoplanes are called Peter because of the PP markings they carry. Launched, they head for their objective, get their pictures, and before long are back over the carrier. The films go immediately to the ship's extensive photo lab for processing as the planes are lowered to the hangar deck. In the briefing room, the pilots are given the latest information concerning their target, based on the results of the photo mission. Questions are asked and answered until every detail of the strike is clear to the pilots. Meanwhile, the flight deck crews ready the bombers for takeoff. And so, through operations, drills, and exercises of all kinds, the Randolph's cruise with the 6th Fleet passes quickly. Her hook has been dropped in half a score of interesting ports around the Mediterranean. Salonika, Genoa, Gibraltar, Naples, Algiers, Valencia, Cannes, Marseille, Taranto, Palermo. The men of the Randolph worked hard, as sailors always have. They've played, too, both in organized games and impromptu ones. They're proud of winning teams in boxing, baseball, golf, softball, tennis, and basketball. There were incongruous moments, too, like this scene aboard the carrier in the Mediterranean. What are they doing? Why, figuring out how much they have to pay Uncle Sam. Then there was the day that someone decided to get all the boys from Indiana together to have their picture taken. And so the 6 months passed quickly. And almost before anyone realized it, the Randolph had once again crossed the Atlantic and was nosing through the August haze into Hampton Roads. The planes of the air group were launched while the ship was still offshore and flown into the Norfolk Naval Air Station. In traditional fashion, the dock at the Norfolk Naval Base is lined with friends, family, and relatives as tugs warp the carrier up to the pier. Yes, the Randolph gets the full homecoming treatment, and deserved it is, for she has had a good cruise and her job was well done.